religious leaders who can amplify prophetic messages within their congregation. This collaboration enhances the reach and impact of advocacy efforts. 5. Advocate for policy reforms. Leverage prophetic voices to advocate for policy reforms that address systematic injustices, engage with policymakers to influence legislative changes that promote equality and justice. 6. Raise awareness through media. Utilize various media channels to disseminate prophetic messages and stories of marginalized individuals. This helps raise public awareness and gain support for the cause. Question 2. Outline the examples of injustices and oppression in Malawi that resonate with Amos' critics. Some of injustices justice in courts. Land exploration. Example, dispute over land ownership leading to displacement of local communities. Amos addressed those who trample on the heads of the poor and exploit the land. Access to education. Example, limited access to quality education, especially in rural areas. Amos emphasized the importance of knowledge and understanding for a just society. Healthcare disparities. Inequalities in healthcare access with marginalized communities facing challenges in obtaining medical services. Amos calls for justice to flow like a river and righteousness like a never falling stream, reflecting the need for equitable access. Discrimination and stigmatization. Discrimination against minority groups based on ethnicity, gender, or other factors. Amos criticizes those who oppress and exploit vulnerable groups. Example, the handicapped. Political oppression. Example, instances of political oppression limiting freedom of expression and political participation. Amos critiques those who admire the one who speaks the truth and trample on the poor. You can slide to another page. Food insecurity. Example, vulnerability to food shortages and malnutrition, particularly in rural areas. Amos parallels. Amos addresses those who sell the lashes for silver and the need for a pair of sandals. Gender-based violence. Example, there is a high rate of gender-based violence and inadequate legal protection for victims like children and women. The law of Malawi Civil Society Organization in promoting social justice. Malawi Civil Society Organization, CSO, plays a vital role in promoting social justice through various initiatives and advocacy efforts. Here are key aspects of their laws. 1, advocates for legal reforms. CSOs advocates for legal reforms that addresses systematic injustices and ensure equal protection under the law. They work to influence policies that promote social justice and human rights. Human rights protection. CSOs actively monitor and advocate for the protection of human rights, ensuring that individuals and communities are treated with dignity and fairness. Community empowerment. CSOs engage in community-based initiatives to empower marginalized groups. These include providing education, training, and resources to enhance the capacity of communities to advocate for their rights. Gender equality and women empowerment. CSOs focus on promoting gender equality by advocating the policies and practices that empower women. They address issues such as gender-based violence, discrimination, and unequal access to opportunities. Access to education and healthcare. Slide to another page. CSOs work to improve access to quality education and healthcare services, particularly in the underserved areas. They advocate for inclusive policies that ensure equal opportunities for all. Economic justice. CSO address economic disparities by advocating for fair labor practices, worker rights, and policies that promote inclusive economic growth. They work towards reducing poverty and ensure equitable distribution of resources. Environmental advocacy. CSOs play a role in environmental justice by advocating for sustainable practices, protecting nature, natural resources, and addressing the impact of environment degradation on vulnerable communities. Good governance and anti-corruption. CSOs promote good governance by advocating for transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. They actively work against corruption, which can exacerbate social injustices. Promoting social inclusion. CSOs advocate for the inclusion of marginalized groups, including people with disabilities, minorities, and LGBTO community. They strive to create a more inclusive and a tolerant society. Of course, this is very crucial. Media and information advocacy. CSO use media and information campaigns to raise awareness about social justice issues. They leverage communication channels to mobilize public opinion and gender support for their causes. What is the strategy for, another page please. What is the strategy for effective challenges existing power structure and advocating for systematic change? The strategies to challenging the existing power structures and advocating for systematic change require effective approach. Here are some and are strategies to consider. Research and analysis. Strategy conducting through research to understand the root cause of systematic issues and justices. Implementation. Here, I've just I start with M instead of starting with I. This is the approach I've already mentioned. Implementation. Collaboration with experts, academics, and research institutions to gather data and analysis the dynamic of existing power structures. Community mobilization. Mobilize community to actively participate in advocating for change. Implementation. Organize community meetings, workshops, and outreach programs to empower individuals and build a collective voice for systematic change. Media and communication campaigns. Utilize media to raise awareness and shape public opinions. Implementation. Develop strategic communications plans, engage with media outlets, radio stations, TV stations, and use social media platforms to pass information and gain the public support. Public advocacy. Advocate for policy change that address the root cause of systematic problem. Implementation. Engage with policymakers. Present evidence-based policy recommendation and lobby for legislative change that promote equity and justice. Public awareness and education. Educate the public on systematic issues and the need for change. Implementation, develop educational materials, conduct awareness campaigns, and host workshops to reform and engage public. Political engagement. Engage with political leaders to influence change from within. Implementation. Establish dialogue with politicians, policymakers, and the government officials to communicate your advocacy goals and work towards collaborative solutions. What have I learned from social life during Amos' time and now? I examine social life during Amos' time in the Old Testament and comparing it to the present to provide insight into both historical and the contemporary aspects of society. Here are some lessons. From Amos' time, which is Old Testament, injustices and exploitation. Lesson from Amos. Amos highlighted the exploitation of the poor by wealthy and the powerful. Relevance today. Similar injustices persistence emphasize the need for ongoing efforts to address economic disparities, moral decay, and spiritual core. Lesson. Amos addresses moral decay and the need for spiritual renewal. Relevance today. Social values and ethical continue to be important calling for ethical leadership and the moral foundation in addressing contemporary challenges. Law of prophetic voices. Lesson. Prophetic voices played a crucial role in challenging the status quo. Relevance today. Advocates and social change often benefit from influence voices that speak out against injustices and inequality. Importance of social justice. Lesson. Amos emphasized the importance of social justice and righteousness in society. Relevance today. The pursuit of social justice remains a foundation principle for creating fair and equitable community. From contemporary times, which is now. One, we are technological advancement. Lesson. Today's world is marked by technological advancement comparison. Unlike Amos's time, we have access to advanced technologies that can be harnessed for communication, education, and advocacy. Globalization. Lesson. Societies are more interconnected globally. Comparison. Modern globalization facilitates the exchange of ideas, resources, and support on a global scale, influencing social movements and advocacy efforts. Diversity and inclusion. Lesson. Today's society often emphasizes diversity and inclusion. Comparison. Contemporary movements advocate for equal rights and the opportunities for diverse groups, aligning with the principles of inclusivity highlighted in Amos' messages. Structure advocacy organization. Lesson. Modern civil society organizations play a key role in advocacy. Comparison. Unlike Amos's time, we have formalized structures, NGOs, and advocacy groups dedicated to addressing specific social issues and promoting systematic change. Legal framework and human rights. Lesson. Contemporary societies often have established legal framework protecting human rights. Comparison. While challenges persisted, there is a recognition of human rights globally and legal mechanisms are in place to address justices. Education, which is the last part. Education opportunities. Lesson. Education is widely recognized as a fundamental rights. Comparison. Access to education has expanded globally, although challenges in ensuring universal access and the quality education persist. Thank you very much, brethren, for listening.
Okay. Thank you for elaborate paper. Then who else are left? Patrick is our Limbani or James. Brother James. Hello.
Hello.
Brother. Uh,
Yes.
your paper is over? Not at
Yeah,
all.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Okay. Week, you can present. Okay.
I I think do it Monday.
Yeah. So next Monday you
Yeah.
can present. Be ready.
I'll finalize this weekend.
So who else are there? If any other people are ready, please ask them to be ready, and so that they can present next week.
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much for your excellent presentations. Now I ask any of you, uh, maybe brother. Okay. So James, can you please? Okay. See, now today three people presented. Many issues they were sharing, like so keeping that in your mind. Please pray for Malawi, that the prophetic voices will raise in the name of uh, CSOs, like community social organizations, that they may uh, act like a prophetic voices against all the injustice happening from a smaller level to government level. So whatever it happen, may God raise people. So this year was, from us only, it's going to start. So whoever it may be,